Welcome to the Tom Bernard Podcast with
co-host Catherine Brandt,
Andy Brandt Bernard,
and Kristen Burt.
We're all here. We're all lined up. We're ready to go. Everything's good. So what's happening?
We lost George Wendt from Cheers yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was 76. He died. He passed away in his sleep.
I could not believe he was still alive, to be honest.
Oh, really? They did a Cheers. They did a Cheers reunion at the Primetime Emmys in January 2024.
I never saw that, so I guess, yeah. But like, I remember him being on Frasier like 20 years ago, and he looked very, very unhealthy back then. I was like,
he was on Frasier?
They did like a Cheers reunion thing on Frasier.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one episode, and
that.
it was ages ago, and I remember being like, man, he is not doing well. And then he lived another 20-something years. So
He looked 70 when he was probably like 45. Like he just has always looked older, I think.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about being on a show for 37 years and all the rest of it, because George Wendt used to come on and just the nicest guy you'd ever want to talk to. He would put up with zero because somebody did, I can't remember who it was, but somebody tried to go after him for being a big guy, and he didn't take that too well. I do remember that. And I don't know why the guy did it in the first place. Like, yeah, we know he is.
People are jerks.
it's kind of his thing.
It's kind of his deal, no question. But the one word you always knew he was coming into Cheers because he'd hear Norm.
Norm. I still remember the my mom and I remember this when Cheers ended in 93. My mom and I happened to be on vacation in Disney World and Universal.
Oh, wow.
And we stayed home from the park that night to watch it because
Really?
you know you're on vacation and you have to watch it live, you know. But it was such a big deal. And they did a live special with Jay Leno. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but they got so drunk watching the finale that by the time they were live on the air with Jay Leno, they were so sloppy. And Jay was just trying to hold it together because I don't think Jay's a big drinker. And the rest of them, like I remember like Rhea Perlman and Ted Danson, they were just like obnoxious drunk. It was so funny to watch.
Okay, so Cliff, the guy that played Cliff, what was his name?
Oh, here comes trouble. You come to arrest me? Jude,
what the hell's wrong with you? Sorry, he's been barking
in full
at people
uniform
lately.
just walked in.
It was John Ratzenberger, right? Yeah, John Ratzenberger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is he still alive?
He does most of the Pixar voices. He's in almost every Pixar movie.
Oh, is he really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know.
He has
he did a lot of
Toy Story.
Yeah.
He's got a huge voiceover career in animation.
Yeah, he does have a unique voice. It's very recognizable.
Yeah.
On the show a few months ago.
Yep. So he has.
I wasn't on.
I think you were.
I don't think so.
Maybe.
You guys don't remember talking to John Ratzenberger?
I wasn't here. I mean, sometimes I'm not on. So.
Tom, do you remember talking to John?
Oh yeah, absolutely, no question. But that's one of my favorite things about this job is interviewing people. We're gonna have a great interview right after you today, as a matter of fact, and he's gonna join us in a couple of minutes. Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
but
he's getting them all set up.
While you were saying that, Kristen Burt, I just thought, when is the last time I've seen someone really intoxicated on the street? And it's been forever. You don't ever see that anymore.
Well, you can come to Santa Monica because this summer, I'm just letting you know, you can come this summer. They're allowing you to have your open container on 3rd Street just for the summer months. And so you can walk up and down like it's Las Vegas. So if you want to do that, you are more than welcome to come to LA with us.
So people get tanked and walking.
I don't know. It's going to start in June. It's like June through August. They're going to allow it. I'm sure that they're going to have to police everything, but it should be. They're just trying to bring people back to 3rd Street because 3rd Street used to be a huge hub for people to hang out in Santa Monica, and it just hasn't been the same ever since COVID. So
I didn't realize someone had taken the headphones away from that mic.
Are they on?
Are they working for you?
They should be on.
Can you hear?
They are working.
We're good.
Okay, good.
All right.
All right, he's good.
Tire Carver says the Epic Universe opened a day early.
Oh,
Some rides are already over 300-minute waits. 5 hours. Time's expected to be over 500 minutes before noon.
No.
This summer is going to be a mess there. Oh, I would not want to do that.
Is there any experience on this earth that you'd be willing to stand there for 7-8
I
hours?
bet a lot of influencers that want to be the first one on the ride. And
But
The
still.
influencers already went, though. They went to the press opening.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were invited. In fact, that happened about a month ago. So they did a soft opening with influencers and press.
I remember
Oh,
when
thank
we
you.
went. So that was what, in April?
Yeah, it was in April.
When we went up there.
Yep.
They said that there were limited tickets available at that time for the public. And we were staying at a Universal resort.
Property.
Yeah. So I think that if we had planned it a little better, we might have been able to get in there too. So there were other ways of getting in there.
Yeah.
I want to
They were
introduce-
flying in the influencers and paying for their trip, which is
yeah.
that's the
They
sweet
were-
deal. That's the one you want.
That's definitely the
Yeah,
one.
honestly, I would have milked Tom, I would have milked you should push for that when you're down in Florida, pushing for some of the Disney doesn't do it for press anymore, but I think
No.
Universal will, getting in touch with the press
That's weird.
representatives there.
Now, I want to introduce Gary Marquardt. Came in a bit earlier. I'm glad you did, as a matter of fact. But then I read the descriptor, and it just, you make a lot of mistakes, Gary. I'm a former neighbor of longtime friend Charlie from Albuquerque. Charlie Sparks.
Long-time listener.
Now, this is wonderful. Gary, we'll just jump in anytime you want. We just schmooze for the first half. This is Kristen Burt. Have you got,
On your screen.
Got her.
Right here.
Burt and
I'm Catherine.
Everybody's here. So, Gary, we look forward to talking to you. But if you want to join in on this conversation, you're more than welcome to.
If you have
Okay.
any
We
Epic
just talked about-
Universe
Yeah,
advice.
We're talking about
We're gonna go
Hollywood.
for-
I talk the fluff, Gary.
Go
Yeah.
from drunks on the street to veterans funerals.
I just literally have not seen. I don't know how long it's been since I've seen one supremely intoxicated walking down the street or at a restaurant. Or you used to see that all the time.
Yeah, you need to go to Las Vegas. It has to be a very specific place. Like Las Vegas, I think would be the place you could see lots of intoxication. You don't see it in LA, and we have no nightlife
No.
here anymore. LA shuts down at 9 p.m. It's
Really?
hilarious. Yeah, very
Why?
early.
Why?
After COVID, it's just everything sort of shifted, and people are up early now. They're hiking. I think we just turned to more of a wellness. When we've always had an element of wellness out in California,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
feel like it leaned even more heavy. Like half my neighborhood, I went walking this morning at 6 a.m. I'm out there, and it's not unsafe because it's me and 400 other people out there in the neighborhood
That's good.
walking. It's crazy.
Well, down in West Palm Beach, after everybody leaves for the winter, all of the snowbirds
God.
flee. We're walking around downtown. It's like a zombie apocalypse. There's no one around
Nobody.
except for me and the homeless guys. That's it. It's like, where is everybody? This is creepy. And they're doing all of these pocket park little make jewelry and paint a bottle, and they're trying to get people to stay in the downtown area.
Yeah.
Oh, I
because
bet.
it's just so dead.
My mom says her gym, she goes to Silver Sneakers
Oh,
to go work out. And when it's snowbird season, she has to go and get a card and be on a wait list to be able to get in. So she goes an hour early to get her card so she can get a spot. And then, once everyone leaves, she's like, I don't have to go early.
There you have it. Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabanco.com to learn more. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Take a very quick break. Be right back. Talk more Hollywood. Gary's with us. Kristen's with us. What more could you ask for?
not much.
We'll be right back. From Bradshaw and Bryant, Michael Bryant. What's up, Allie?
Oh, not much. Doing my usual thing of telling people they shouldn't be texting and driving. In Minnesota, you can't have your phone in your hands. You can use, hands free, but you can't have your phone in your hands for whatever reason. And that's why they made the law the way they did, so that police officers could see a phone in your hand and you got no excuse for why you got it there.
Do people know that that's the law?
I hope so. I mean, they used to follow it, and then kind of COVID kind of made people forget. And now it's like a freewheeling world out there with cell phones.
Let's say you get pulled over because you do have a phone in your hand and you're not watching where you're going. You got to be in pretty big trouble then, I would guess.
Well, the first one's not as bad. It's the multiple ones, the problem. And once people start stacking them up, then they have a big problem. And then what we're doing in car accidents is we've started bringing motions for punitive damages, because I'm trying to use the civil law any way we can to stop this, because it needs to stop.
Whenever I'd had any problems in my life, who was that I called again? It was like an MB, something like that.
Bradshaw and Bryant.
Just thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable. Sometimes the anxiety from wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? My guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, can sit down with you, get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk, never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer either, or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today, 952-925-5608. Set up your free 48-minute no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608. Investment services offered by Josh Arnold, investment consultant, LLC security investment advisor. Past performance, no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions of Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice. And I am a paid endorser. Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American. What's the matter? Yeah, where'd she go?
She vanished again. I think she's having internet troubles.
It sounds like
Weird.
It appears that well, I'll still claim that Kristen Bird Entertainment News is brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabankco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
She'll be back.
So before Kristen comes back, Gary, do you have some great Hollywood news to tell us, even though you live in Albuquerque?
You have your finger on the pulse of Hollywood.
The finger on the pulse.
Yeah, well,
Oh, Kristen says her internet just went out.
Oh,
Oh.
no.
Weird.
What, another earthquake or something?
I wonder.
Okay, well,
Well, then forget about
Spectrum
Kristen
has
Bird
an
Entertainment.
outage.
Oh, they have an outage.
Mm-hmm.
What in Los Angeles? That's got to cause a lot of trouble, I would think.
I would think.
You would think. We used to do Spectrum. Now we have some other thing. I don't even remember what it's called.
You have the thing that works.
We have fiber optic now.
Fiber
Yeah.
optic
Pretty
is
cool.
good.
We got the cool stuff.
Gary Marquardt. See, look how convenient it is that you showed up early and then she falls off, so we get to turn to you early.
Yep.
If she comes back, that'd be great.
Otherwise, we'd have to talk to each other, God forbid.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that. No question.
could have hopped over the table. and gone to this.
Yeah, exactly. Gary Marquardt, former neighbor and longtime friend of Charlie Sparks. God, I haven't seen Charlie. Catherine, you text with Charlie more often than I do.
He's on social media. He makes comments quite
He's on
often.
the chat pretty much every day.
Yeah, he
There you
listens.
go,
He's
Charlie.
a longtime listener and friend of the family.
It is true. Charlie from Albuquerque.
He's a unique creature.
That's a good way to put it.
Creature.
He's
That's what
unique.
made us friends.
He's unique.
You know-
Total double entendre mode of thinking.
It's so funny because when we went someplace and I had actually never seen him before.
I have never met, I don't think, any of our current listeners.
And I think
Except
we
for
were in, I
Wendy,
think we were
maybe.
in Nashville. And he walks
Yeah.
up to me and he says like, "Hi, Catherine." And I'm like, "Hi, who are you?" And then I asked somebody, they're like, "Oh, that's Charlie from Albuquerque." Oh,
You got it locked in, Charlie from Albuquerque.
I ran into Terry Train at a concert and I recognized her and I went up and I said, "Hi, I want to introduce myself." And she was just like,
Yeah.
creepy old man. And I said, I'm
You
a
don't look
friend.
creepy.
I'm a friend of Charlie from Albuquerque. And she hugged me. She said, "Oh my God."
There you go. That's totally different if you know Charlie. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. Now, I'd like to mention to everybody that what Gary does makes me tear up every time.
Oh.
So thank you for that.
It does.
It
It's
does every
terrible.
time. And
Me
we'll
too.
tell you- Yeah, I would imagine. An interesting journey that you can see on Kara Levin's Land of 10,000 Stories. That's magnificent. We're going to post that after the show, as a matter of fact, so people can go to it. The
Make a
state,
note of doing that, Andy.
yes,
I didn't have my headphones on. What?
Oh, Dad said you were going to post a link to this show.
no, not to this show. To
What?
the Kara
I mean-
Levin's Land. Well, I'll read it again.
Okay,
I was
thank you.
answering the phone. Kristen's back with us
Oh, she
Oh.
is.
on the phone.
Okay.
Kristen's really upsetting the show today. I should get rid of her. Forget it. She's out.
I'm sorry, my internet service, thanks Spectrum, went out in my entire neighborhood. I just saw the update.
That's amazing. But
Someone
that,
probably dug the wrong place, and
it
you
could
know.
be.
Yep.
That could be. So to bring you up to the moment, Kristen, we were just talking to Gary Marquardt, and we just told him, all of us told him that what he does makes us cry, which it
Mhm.
does. And then Gary said it makes him cry too. So,
Oh,
and I'll read that part again. I have an interesting journey that you can see from Carol Evans' Land of 10,000 Stories piece. We have the link to it, and it's a long link. So when you post it, Andy, after the show, they can just come on our site and find it, right?
We'll see what I can do because I
Okay.
have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, there's a link on this page.
You can
It's
find it.
not that big a deal.
Oh,
I have it,
like
and I
from
can
the
give it to him,
email.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
should
Gary's
be able
got it,
to.
too.
Yeah, we should be able to do that then. I thought you had like some other thing that you found.
No, me?
Yeah,
know.
that's unlikely.
I suppose.
Getting back to what it is that Gary does that makes everybody tear up. He is the state director of Bugles across America.org and part of 5,000 volunteers who provide live taps for any veteran's funeral honor service. How do you
Taps.
do it, Gary? Honest to God, I have been to, I grew up in the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. So there was a lot of taps back in those days and neighborhood boys coming back. And I'll never forget, and I'll get this out of the way. It's tough. I won't even say the name of the family, but they were family friends forever. And their eldest son went to Vietnam, came home dead, unfortunately. And the damage was so bad, they had to put his cover on. He's a United States Marine, and you could still see the huge hole in his forehead.
Ugh.
They tried to cover it up the best they could. It
Ugh.
was very, very difficult.
Mhm.
And then they played taps. This is your fault, Gary, right here. His father fell apart, and I'll never forget it. I was probably 11 or 12 at the time. His father just completely collapsed, and they had to carry him out of the church.
Yeah.
Does that happen a lot?
It's pretty frequent. Families
I bet.
hold it together. They've had the shock of the announcement,
Sure.
and it's much worse when it's an active duty
Mhm.
Oh,
KIA.
yeah.
But even for older veterans, families hold it together. I played for a guy named Speed Holman in Watertown.
Oh, okay.
He was a janitor for the last 20 years of his life at the high school. He parachuted in behind enemy lines the night before Normandy
Oh.
and fought for 3 weeks in the hedgerows, then went back and trained in England for a while, did a daylight drop in Operation Market Garden in Holland, hit the tail of the plane bailing out because his static line got
Oh,
caught up,
God.
got knocked out, woke up on the ground with a German rifle in his face. He spent 5 months in 3 different stalags, was liberated by a column of Russian tanks headed by a woman colonel who said, "We're going to go to Berlin and get Hitler. You can go with us." And he said, all of us Americans said, "We're not going under the command of any Russian." So they walked, get this, they walked east all the way to Warsaw, got a train from Warsaw to Istanbul, another train from Istanbul to Said, Egypt, and a boat to Naples where they turned themselves into MPs at 85 pounds.
85.
And they had his 101st Airborne uniform there on a mannequin. Watertown, Gaylord, Norwood Young America, all shut down. There were 1,000 people in the street, and I'm standing there shivering with nervousness, going to play taps for this iconic
When
man
would this
who
have
lived.
been?
I want to say it was in 2019, maybe.
Also, just before we moved to that area.
Yeah. And just a heck of an experience. I've had 4 funerals, and these really get me, where the only people there was a priest and a funeral home person and myself. It was a
Oh.
World War II
Oh,
vet
it's
that
just like no
outlived
one-
everybody.
Yeah.
Outlived everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And-
My aunt Anne, she was actually a surgical nurse in World War II,
She was in
In-
like Bali or something?
Burma,
Burma.
which
Oh,
isn't
boy.
Burma anymore. It's
No.
called
Myanmar now.
Yeah.
Myanmar, yeah.
Yeah. And
I know that because of Seinfeld.
it was my mother, my father, and me, and the priest,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the bugler.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so sad
Yeah.
because
And
she had outlived everybody too.
I feel like I'm representing the whole country in those.
Oh,
Usually there's some
absolutely.
military people there, but you present the flag to the urn.
All I could think of while you're telling your story about the guy who, parachuted behind enemy lines, fought for 3 weeks, and then got shot down. And I'm like, yeah, that's rough. But Kristen's high-speed internet just went out. So I mean,
Yeah.
people are still suffering every day. So,
Yes. Kristen
I'm
Bird,
fine.
Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American Banking Company. There's going to be a lot more coming from Gary right after Kristen's. You still have a 7-minute segment, so that's good, right?
That is good. Yes.
Go
I know. And I'm like, all my first world problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Veterans.
yeah, it
Exactly.
really does put into perspective how few
No
problems a lot of people have, including myself.
Yeah, that's why when people are disrespectful
true.
about the military, it really irritates me.
There's no doubt
Especially
about
back then. I mean, God, World War I veterans went through some of the worst stuff ever, I would say.
World War II was no picnic.
It wasn't great, but I mean, the whole trench warfare thing was just awful.
it. Okay, Kristen, now you have 6 minutes to cheer us up a little.
Well, we've been
Segue.
talking about, how we keep on saying like, oh, the 80s were like 20 years ago. If you want to know how long everything was, here are a few films celebrating their 50th anniversary this
50.
year. 50.
Uh-oh.
And this is going to be the big one coming up because on June 20th, Jaws will be 50 years
Oh
old.
my God.
That, for some reason, I believe. That seems like
Jaws
so
feels
long
very old
ago.
to me.
Yeah.
It's before my time.
Yeah, that one, but we're going to see a lot of retrospective on that one in particular because it's really one of the films that put Steven Spielberg on the map.
Yep.
And a lot of filmmakers say that particular film got them into wanting to make movies.
And
You
it
know,
also-
Chris, what it did to me?
Hmm.
I was going to jump in and say, yeah, Hard Day's Night. No, that was 60 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Like, oh my
But does anyone remember? Because I know that my mom said we were so afraid to go in the water when that
Yes.
movie came out.
Yeah.
Still, I think about Jaws
yeah.
whenever I jump
Jaws
in the
caused a
ocean.
massive like anti-shark sentiment for
It really
decades.
did.
People were out there just like killing sharks because they're
Yep.
like, the monsters of the ocean.
Yeah,
Right.
it's true.
I still have an album of the soundtrack of Jaws that I caught from Chuck Knapp, who threw it over the crowd at
Oh.
a downtown PR event when that movie opened.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
So now
I
you know
was-
I'm over 50.
John Williams
Wow.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
God, Chuck
That must have
Knapp.
been one of John Williams's earlier ones, right?
Yes, it really was the one I think that also put him on the map
Yeah.
in terms
Sure
of
did.
creating movie soundtracks. And I think that Steven Spielberg had something else in mind, and he's like, no, I've got something else. And I guess he went over to the piano. John Williams was like just typing out the dun dun,
Yeah.
and that became
Yeah.
like the sound of the summer.
It
sure
did. There's no question about it. Honest to God, it just.
Well, you know what? What movie my 3-year-old son was watching when I left? Mary Poppins.
There you go.
That one's not new. That's over 60 years old.
Ethan was over yesterday, and I wanted to find the old George of the Jungle. cartoon. You can't find it. You can find these horrible
No,
movies.
they're
with
gone.
Brandon Fraser, I think, was in them.
Yeah.
No, they were awful.
Melissa and I consider
Oh,
that
yeah.
a childhood classic,
But
but it's not good.
But the very old cartoons, and I'm like, yeah, he had a monkey friend and this and that. And he says, oh, really? I said, yeah, everybody likes monkeys, don't they? He said, maybe not an old man.
I hate him.
One thing I will tell you, and I'm honest to God,
Ah.
this is the truth. He's my grandson. I love him dearly. There's no question about it. But he looks like he's about 8.
He sure does.
He's large.
He's going to be like
Probably
6'8"
taller
or
than
something.
me.
No, not
Oh
quite
my
yet.
God, is he big.
Give him a year.
He might be next year.
I think he's 42 inches tall.
42
already.
inches tall
Oh.
at 3 years old.
I'm
Wow.
only 53 inches.
Yeah,
Oh
he's
my God.
yeah. There you go. He's like 10 inches shy of you.
No, I'm
That is-
63 inches. I'm
Okay.
63
Oh, I
inches.
was going to
There
say,
you
you're
go.
really
I
short.
was like, wait, I'm not that short.
I was gonna say.
Let me redo the math.
Well, I had a good Ethan moment just before I left. So in Mary Poppins, the dad is singing about life in England in 1910 or whatever,
Mhm.
Right.
and he says something about his dominion, and Ethan goes, "Minion," because he loves
He
minions.
loves minions.
And
I
we're
love
like,
Minions.
no, Dominion. He says, no, not Dominion.
I watched Minions on the airplane not too long ago.
Yeah,
I
you did. That's
laughed and laughed.
That
It's
is
a
true.
great,
There's
There
no
you go.
question.
great movie.
You know, thanks a lot, Kristen, for calling in today, making me feel like I'm ancient because Jaws was 50 years
Yeah.
ago.
50
Wait,
years.
you want to hear some of the others?
Yes,
One
I
Flew Over
do.
the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, I love that
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, yeah.
Love that movie.
One of my favorites with Warren Beatty, Shampoo, is 50 years old.
Yep.
I don't even know what that is.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That one is surprising to me. I've never seen it, but it, for some
Oh,
reason
you need to
feels newer.
See it. It's so campy.
It's been
Dog Day Afternoon, Nashville,
Nashville.
Tommy, and 3 Days of the Condor.
Oh my God, 50 years ago.
See, I'm just young enough that to me, things that are 50 years old still feel like they might as well have been made by the Romans. So it's like none of
Those
these
are
are.
some
none of-
good movies. So if
They
you like
are.
to watch older films, you've got some things to watch if you haven't seen some of that list.
Oh, we
That's
watch
true.
50 plus years old stuff all the time. It's just
Good
like,
stuff.
I don't know. Like if it was a list of movies turning 40, that I think I would get, like, a lot of those would get me because that's around my age.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know what it is about coincidences in life, but Gary just mentioned somebody that I used to work with. And then you brought up the fact that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was 50 years ago. And Chuck Knapp saw that movie about 10 times. He loved it so much. And the 1500 KSTP morning show, when I was on at night and he was on in the morning.
Yeah.
He, honest to God, he all he did for about 2 weeks is talk about that movie. So look at the coincidence there. Gary shows up, just talked to Chuck Knapp. Then we got Chuck Knapp coming back because it was his favorite movie, mentioned by Kristen Burke.
Yeah, you never hear Nurse Ratchet references
Nurse-
anymore.
No.
You used to.
Every
You did
so
for-
often.
All
but-
the time. If you said Nurse Ratchet to a Gen Z, unless they were a classic film buff, they
Yeah.
would have no idea what
No.
you're talking about.
Not anymore.
I know the reference, but like I've never seen that either.
Oh, you still hear, "Hey, Chief, do you want to go to a World Series?"
Yeah, you're very good. That was a good impression,
That
actually.
was a good impression.
Oh my God! Now we're going to lose Kristen Bird again because you got to go on to her other job. What the hell is that, Kristen?
I'm so rude of me.
It really is. There's
So,
no
Kristen, you're going to be on tomorrow?
No, I'm going to
Not-
be out tomorrow and,
and Friday.
Friday.
Oh,
and then you guys
here
are off
we
on
go.
Monday.
Yep.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah,
You're
okay,
taking
so I'll
a
be back with you
6-day
guys
vacation.
on Tuesday. I have to be in Boston tomorrow and Friday. So
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
I
that's
love
right.
Not a vacation.
Oh, I can't wait to hear
not a
about your
vacation.
drama.
Please wish me like 10 a.m. Eastern time on Friday. Please wish me the best of luck because this has been a long road.
Mhm.
Yes.
I understand.
Good luck to you.
All right, my dear.
Thank
We'll talk
you.
to you on Tuesday.
Yes, have a great long weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabankco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And what does she have to go back for?
Some sort of lawsuit
Yeah.
thing
Oh,
with her
that's right.
family.
She says she can't really
some
talk
sort
about
of
it so much
scam.
That's
yet,
right.
but once it's
Yeah.
resolved, then she'll tell all. She'll do
I
the tell all.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. Come back. We're going to talk to Gary about you get a full half hour to 45 minutes, as much as you want.
There you go.
You have no idea how much I can talk.
Well, it's been good so far, so that's good. We'll take a break. Be right back with Gary Marquardt just a couple of minutes from now. Does thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable? Sometimes the anxiety for wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? My guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, can sit down with you and get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk. Never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608. Set up your free 48-minute no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608. Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC Security Investment Advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments must involve risk. You know that. All comments and opinions of Josh Arnold's do not constitute investment advice. I am a paid endorser. Let me tell you about my bank. That'd be North American Banking Company. When it comes to banking, it's all about trust, and that's what you get with them. They've been around since 1998, and they've always made it clear they're here to give you a better banking experience with a focus on the local community, and you won't be dealing with some AI chatbot either. You'll get straight answers and quick decisions from real people that know you and your situation and are always ready to help. So if you're tired of the big national banks and want something better, stop by and see my friends at North American Banking Company. Visit nabankco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Gary Marquardt, our very special guest, State Director of Bugles Across America.org, and part of 5,000 volunteers who provide live taps for any veterans' funeral honor services. Big challenge is that families aren't aware that DOD and most of the VFW and American Legion posts don't have a live bugler. I didn't know that. I always assumed they did.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
It's probably close to 80% of the time they use a recording device. It's a little fake trumpet with a recorder in it,
Oh, really?
but it's better than nothing. You know,
No,
because
that's true.
For a while, they
Yeah.
had nothing.
Oh,
But the DOD just had to admit they only have 1,500 buglers all across the country in active service.
Wow.
And, you know, the DOD regulations say that you get 2 uniformed service people to present your flag and taps. And they said, we can't even pretend anymore. And
No.
so in
Andy-
2001, they started they send the bugles and the recording out.
Okay.
Recording fails an awful lot in the winter.
Oh.
Can you imagine how crappy that would be? You're at a funeral and the bugles start just like,
Yeah.
glitching
Crackle.
up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's
Yeah.
how I got into this. A friend of mine, Bud Shanks is his name, was a World War II Pacific veteran where I grew up in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
And his daughter is married to my best friend, and he died at 99 years old. And I went down to the funeral,
Man.
and he was just a great guy, lived a great life. And the VFW was there. They folded the flag. These guys are really dedicated to doing the veteran service organizations do just a wonderful job, but it's a little unusual to find someone who can play a horn. And so we're there, and a lot of people there. They fire the rifles, and then a guy stood by a tree with one of these fake things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And taps played, and it played correctly. It was a little squawky, but it was okay. And I looked at the faces of everybody there, and I'll never forget those faces because they all had the same, what the heck, look on them.
WTF.
Yeah.
Even the guy who was holding the fake trunk, but to his mouthpiece wasn't even touching, and he was looking like, boy, I wish I could play a horn.
Oh.
So on the way home, I just got on my phone and I started looking, why is this? Found the reason. And then there's this link to Bugles Across America. A guy named Tom Day, who was a retired Marine who played at the National Cemetery there all the time, knew General Westmoreland.
Oh.
And when they said, we're not going to provide buglers, he called Westmoreland and said, Westy, what if I get buglers? Could I do that? And he said, have at it. So he started with a Boy Scout and his dad. And today, Tom's retired. There are 3 national directors. And there are close to 5,000 of us who do this. There are 172 in Minnesota, mostly in the Twin Cities. And we provide, it's always free. Very often people will come up and 2 things they say, well, 3. They say thank you, which is always appreciated, but they try and give me money.
Oh, yeah.
Or they apologize that it's so cold out. And I tell them, I tell them I never slept in a foxhole, ma'am.
Yeah.
When I came back, I called that organization and I said, how does this work? And they said, well, how long have you been playing horn? And I said, I never have. And he said, okay.
That's smooth.
And but my next door neighbor, Bruce Hedblum, was the conductor of the 451st Army Band at Fort Snelling. So I went and talked to him and said, could I learn to do this? And he said, it's not easy.
No.
So he put me in touch with Bob Bushnell at Minnetonka Music. I bought a horn, started taking lessons, and it took a year. Now, I lived on Spring Park Bay. I met Charlie originally on Phelps Bay.
Oh,
that was the first house we had that was on the lake. Here's how long ago it was. I bought a house on Island View Drive in Mound for $71,100.
Now you can't even buy a lot.
So now you know. Now you know why Charlie could afford the rent next door.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
But I would playing outside is entirely different than indoors. Indoors, you get that feedback right away. Outside, it just goes away from you. So I needed to practice outside. So I would just go out on my boathouse and play every night at sunset over the lake. And
your neighbors are like, is our lake haunted?
They would holler out the window, why don't you play something you know?
Oh.
It was a little rough.
That's cold.
But eventually it got it got to where it needed to be, and then boats started showing up. There's so many side stories to this. So first couple of boats would come and sit there until sunset,
wonderful.
and I would play. I have a video of 315 boats in that bay on the 4th of July waiting for taps.
Oh,
That's wonderful.
Really great.
And so then it took a year. I started doing funerals, and the whole story just kind of took off. I still play over the lake every night. There's a new hotel in Lake Minnetonka called the Lakeshore Hotel, where the old yacht club used to be, right next to the Water Patrol headquarters. Oh. And I know the gal that owns that, so I play on their deck at sunset every night.
That's wonderful.
And it's just, I always want to be mission ready. I wasn't a professional horn player.
Right.
But another funny sign, not funny, tragically ironic story is 4th of July was, I have a website called Taps on Casco Point that people watch to see if I'm going to be there, because almost every night I play year round, but sometimes I'm gone. And so I posted that on the 4th of July, my grandson and I were going to do echo taps from different docks. So it's da, 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 da.
Oh.
And so many people were hitting the site going, we're going to be there. This is going to be great. You know, bringing my dad, he's a veteran. The 3rd of July, my grandson, who's 15, calls me up and he's crying. And he said, Grandpa, my friend Mikey got killed right off of Casco Point this morning on a jet ski. And he said, Taps is so sad. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, don't worry. So I went on the site and I said, we had a tragedy. It's just going to be me. And I get an email from a woman who had been in a boat. And she said, Gary, meet Manny. Manny, meet Gary. And I thought, what the heck is that? Pretty soon, I get an email from this guy, Manny Laureano. And he says, I'm a member of Bugles Across America. I just did a funeral a couple of weeks ago. He said, I'd be happy to come out and do echo taps.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I said, bring your wife. The whole beach opens up. It'll just be a great 4th of July. We get to talking. He says, what kind of horn do you have? And I said, a Sonari, about trumpets. I could play something other than taps because my wife was going to kill me. And I said, what kind of a horn do you have? And he said, a Manette. And I said, that's what Wynton Marsalis plays. I said, you're in Bugles Across America and you bought a Manette? And he said, oh, I have several of them. I've been the principal trumpet for the Minnesota Orchestra for 34 years.
Wow.
So I've been taking lessons from him every Tuesday since 2016, I think. Right north of here at his house in his living room, he played the beginning of Star Wars for me the night before they premiered the Jumbotron thing of that.
Oh, wow.
And he still does funerals. In fact, I was in Florida. I spent March in Florida. And I got a call from the Chanhassen VFW, and they said, we got a funeral Saturday. Can you play? And I said, I'm in Florida. And they said, it's Bud Grant.
Oh my God.
I said, all right, let me get back to you. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm going to try and go to Minneapolis. So it's middle of spring break, $790 for a plane ticket.
Oh,
Go home for
you're
a
lucky
day.
it was
One
only
way.
$790. Yeah.
So I called Manny and I said, Manny, can you do a funeral on Saturday? He says, well, we have rehearsal in the afternoon. And I said, it's Bud Grant. So I'll be there.
Yeah.
And when I came back, he said, I've played all over the world. That was one of the greatest events I've been to. He said, every famous person you ever knew was there.
Oh, there's no doubt
That's
about
very
that.
nice.
Officer Dave wants to know if you have met Mike Bond, the Ramsey County deputy that bugled for Lima.
No, I have not.
No, you have not.
No.
Well, there you go, Dave.
I'm trying to think when Grandpa died,
Yes.
there was a live bugler,
Yes,
right?
there was.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, there
Yeah,
was,
it was a Fort Snelling ceremony.
Yeah.
And they, what did it was you're limited to like 8 minutes or something like that for a
it's pretty mechanized.
ceremony.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they were actually pretty nice. They let us go like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There's an organization called the Fort Snelling Honor Guard that started many years ago when there was literally nothing going on at those funerals. They would just bury people with the family there. And these guys, these Marines, I think, started it. And they have a squad of people that's there. They do 35 or 40 funerals a day. They do a really great job, but they often don't have a bugler. And they'll use the recording, which we never want to. Those guys are our allies in this. They call us often and say we need a bugler, and we would love more calls. I mean, we've got 175 buglers. A lot of those guys have jobs, and they can only do them when they can get time off.
Sure.
But there are hundreds and hundreds of funerals that happen. As state director, if we have one in a dry spot for us, we had one recently in Blue Earth, and there's only 2 buglers down there, and they were both working. So I go. I've gone to Fargo. I did one in all over the state. Whenever there's one, I'll drive up and do the minute and a half, and
that's
it's worth it. It really is.
I have to read this. Did you write this descriptor, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Wait till you hear the final paragraph. There are 2 paragraphs I have to read.
Okay.
Gary Marquardt says, I am the state director of Bugles Across America and part of 5,000 volunteers who provide live taps for any veteran's funeral honors services. Our big challenge is that families aren't aware that the DOD and most of the VFW and American Legion Post don't have a live bugler. The funeral homes do a great job of arranging the honor services, but if people don't ask, they are likely to have a recording instead of the dignified tribute that this very special melody provides. Now, my favorite part of the statement, they will hear a recording of taps on a fake horn. He wrote fake right up here. a fake horn, and sometimes it malfunctions, especially in the winter.
So in order to be a bugler, do you have to be like titled in any way, or is it just like I can play the bugle, I'll be there?
The great thing about our organization is it's gone on for a long time. And so we have these rubrics of how you do this. It's pretty simple. People can go to our website and there's a link to volunteer to be a bugler. And when you hit that, whichever state it's in, I will get a notification and I'll immediately call and kind of walk through what we do and how we do it and what your history is if you've played a horn or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We do a telephone audition.
Oh.
And the interesting thing about this, when I first started, the first funeral I had, I was so nervous.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was going to have leg cramps. This is a one-time thing. And I saw this thing online that they had a free course at Juilliard for performance anxiety.
Juilliard.
So
Ooh.
I hook up and there's a guy who's moderating the thing and they ask you, what do you play? What kind of gigs do you do? And I said, well, guns go off right before I play. And the guy said, oh my. Mm-hmm. And they gave me some great tips that I still use. But when people are doing the audition, it's I don't know if you've ever auditioned for anything, but any kind of an audition where there are people judging what you do.
Sure.
And we have a standard, that we try to adhere to. There's a YouTube video that I steer people to called 11 Hours of Taps. And it's a loop recording of a Marine playing taps.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you can play along with it.
because there are ways that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do a lot of PR. Mostly we have, we always welcome new buglers. There are always some who are retiring or getting older, just quit or can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a very good success rate. In the last 3 years, there are 4 services requested that we haven't been able to fill. And all of those were
That's a
because
good
I
record.
was in Florida in March.
Yeah.
So if one happens in the Twin Cities, it's literally 45 seconds because an email goes out to everyone within 100 miles who's a qualified bugler.
Okay.
And the first person to put the code in, they're assigned it. They make contact with the requester and get it set up.
Okay.
The website, gives you the link that you can get to, but it can take seconds, and that mission's gone. And it goes in streaks. The U.S. Army at Fort Snelling, their group there doesn't just do funerals in Fort Snelling. All of them do them all over the country. So we do the Coast Guard, did one last week for the Marines and the Army. But there are also a lot of funerals where I've had funerals where one woman was, her husband was in the Korean War. And they weren't going to have military honors. And she said, but we'd like someone to play taps and maybe present a flag. So I went and did it in the church. And
Nice.
I love playing in churches.
Yeah.
Got a nice
Great
sound.
acoustics. Yeah.
I
Great
had,
acoustics.
had one in a 2-story marble mausoleum
Oh my
at
God.
Resurrection Cemetery. And when I finished playing taps in the mausoleum, the taps was still playing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's going to
wow.
echo for a while.
Yeah. Do you guys know the history of how taps came to be? what
I
it
was
is?
going to ask that very question. No,
I should
don't.
mention, by the way, before you mention this, you must have a busy day on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I would
yes.
imagine
Even
so.
before, I
Memorial Day.
mean, there's a nursing home that has a veterans event. I had to get somebody to substitute for me at the cemetery mass in Mound, where I typically play because I got booked up in another deal. And so it's a busy time of year, but it's good PR for us to get the message out. Ask if you have a live taps player.
Absolutely.
That's important. And if there's anybody listening who's in the mortuary business, that's something that there's so many things for them to tie together for families. And I really believe they do an absolutely fantastic job. But, and sometimes we don't fight with the veteran service organizations. If they have a 90-year-old veteran who loves standing and holding that horn and that's his thing, we're going to, that's fine. It's, we're there for the veteran. It's just the pinnacle of the thing, what you talked about before. Families hold it together until taps. They've had the worst news. And then, but when you get to that last note, I hold that last note as long as I can, because to me, that's the spirit leaving the body. And it's the most emotional time for me. And so I really have to concentrate to keep the air flowing.
I bet.
And it is, the thank yous and the hugs are terrific. But, I'm a pretty big guy. When I was in high school, I was a football player, D- poster child in my high school. I was going to go to Vietnam. And a little school in North Dakota, the North Dakota State College of Science, gave me a football scholarship if I could get C's. And that's where I met my wife. And I knew as soon as I got out of school, I had an S1 deferment, that I was going to get drafted. I'm going to Vietnam. And I could see my own end running through a rice paddy with a 50 caliber machine gun. And so I got married the same day I graduated from college.
Oh, wow.
Catholic kid. I'm going to live as much life as I can in the 2 or 3 years that I have here. And then I collapsed at work, and I had a duodenal ulcer, and I was 4F.
My God.
Ineligible. And so when people come up and say thank you, and they want to give me something, I drove to Blue Earth, and they said, let us fill your car up. And I said, this is my service. I retired. I had a wonderful life. I have 2 kids, 7 grandkids. I started a business from absolutely nothing with a friend of mine that ended up, we sold it, and that company went public. I worked for them.
Nice.
I just had a wonderful life. And my dad and my wife's dad both fought all the way across Europe in World War II. My dad ended the war. His name was James Marquardt. People don't say his name much, but that's how you have immortality if people say your name.
Yeah.
And he ended the war in Nuremberg, actually guarded some of the SS that were detained there. And came home smoking 5 packs of Luckies a day.
Oh, God.
Geez.
Oh, God.
And drinking quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was pretty common. Yeah.
Those guys had it. But so I didn't have to go. And I'm 76 years old. I'm healthy enough to get to these places. It gets your blood flowing doing this, I'll tell you.
Are there any financial considerations for some of the people that maybe aren't so fortunate? Like they have to travel, they have to, the buglers.
No. People, our rubric is if someone offers you an honorarium, you can take it. My personal thing is I don't need it.
Right.
And I would like it just to be my gift.
Sure.
I have 5 friends on the wall out there. I have friends I have a friend, Gene McHugh, whose brother was killed in 1967. And the Minneapolis Tribune did a big feature article. They went to Vietnam, found him. I think he was in Da Nang, interviewed him, and that appeared in the Sunday paper as a full page, 2-page deal the day he was killed. And and then a week later, they got the last letter from him that was written on the bottom cardboard of a box of K rations because they didn't have any paper where he was. And he got killed. His name was Gary McHugh, and he's buried in Belle Plaine.
Now, you've been to the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C.?
I have been to the Vietnam War Memorial. I have been to Omaha Beach 3 times.
Oh, God.
I have sand from Omaha Beach in my pocket.
You do?
I have cufflinks that have Omaha Beach sand in them. That is, if anyone ever gets a chance to go there, that's fantastic. There's a great military museum in Schaumburg, Illinois called Camp Cantigny. If you ever go there, it takes you through all the wars, and you're literally walking out onto Omaha Beach. You're in a trench in World War I and in a jungle in Vietnam. It's remarkable.
Right.
The museum in New Orleans is great, and I have been to the Imperial War Museum in London, which is really spectacular.
I got to run something by here because you're making me think of all this stuff back in the Vietnam era and all the rest of it. But yeah, Kath and I did see the Vietnam War Memorial in DC. And what did we find? Like 9 names that we knew.
I don't know. I couldn't take it.
She couldn't do it
I couldn't take it. I was like, I got to get away from this thing.
It's hard to believe no one's buried there because it is a massive
all
cemetery.
Those names. It's just, what the heck?
Yeah. And they're in the order, the rough order
Right.
that they were killed. And so you can see who is next to them,
One thing I did notice about that war, and not everybody, but I'm telling you, 99%, I was supposed to graduate from North High in 1969. I actually left school in 67, but they didn't give me my diploma until 69. Sorry, we're taking in the money for you, pretending you're still here, right?
Yeah.
But I did notice for many years after that, the youngest my friends died, the youngest of them were all Vietnam War veterans.
Yeah.
Even though they survived the war and they got back and they were top to bottom and they're in good shape, what it did to them emotionally, they just couldn't handle it. It's pretty amazing to see. Seriously, all my early death friends, unless they died in a car accident or something like that.
Yeah.
but the guys who died just of smoking, drinking, not a lot of drugs, I don't think.
No.
Mostly smoking and drinking, but they all died very young.
Yeah, you're right. There were a lot of drunk driving fatalities.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In Vietnam vets. They made it all the way back, and then in 2 years, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, what
Yeah.
a
But this
terrible tragedy.
this is such a strange milieu that I got into. I mean, I was playing taps over Spring Park Bay, and a woman who lived on the other side of the bay posted a thing on Facebook and said that somebody's playing taps every night on Casco Point.
Mhm.
She went to high school with my daughter. My daughter
Oh,
messaged her and said, "That's my dad." That guy calls Boyd Hoopert and says, "You should do a story." So
Oh, yeah.
Boyd comes out. They follow me around for a week
Oh,
and do a feature on Memorial Day. I think in 2000. I don't remember the year. It was 5 or 6 years ago, and it ended up on Lester Holt's national news that night.
wow.
And
That's
just
great.
the other night, I'm over at the yacht club. The one it used to be called the yacht club. It's now the Shoreline Hotel.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I go in and I have a shot of whiskey, and I go out and play taps and on the deck there. And there's people eating on the deck, and I'm there, and I played taps over the water at sunset. And I turn around, and there's a woman sitting there, turn around backwards, and she's crying.
Yeah.
And she comes over and she shakes my hand. She says, "I don't know how or why you were here doing this, but I really want to thank you." And I said, "Well, thanks." She said, "This is my brother." She said, "We stopped by for a drink. My dad was a war veteran, and he just died 2 hours ago."
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Hugged her. Oh, my God. But, things like that are almost commonplace because
Yeah.
taps is so recognizable,
Mhm.
and it only has one thing. Oh, I was going to tell you the history of taps.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
long has it
Charlie
been
in the
around?
chat said circle
Dur-
back to the
Gee,
origination of
Charlie
taps.
in the
Oh, he's
chat. I wonder who
directing.
that
He's directing from afar. All right.
Okay, Charlie.
So during the Civil War, not unlike today, the president of the United States was just getting hammered by the press because they had these battles, Fredericksburg,
Sure.
all these
Yeah.
different battles that happened, and they happened days apart. Everybody's shifting thousands of troops from place to place, and there were dead bodies and dead animals everywhere. They were in
Yep.
farm fields,
Yeah.
and the stench was awful. It was disrespectful, and the president was getting a lot of heat. So he sent the generals notice and said, "We got to do something about this." And they said, "Well, there are snipers. We go up to pick up the dead. We can get killed." And there
Oh,
was a guy named Colonel Charles Butterworth who they used bugles to signal movement.
Mhm.
They had one for flank left, flank right, retreat, charge.
okay.
All these little kids and drummers who played the bugles. And he took an old bugle call that was used by the British Army. The story goes, there are a bunch of different stories out there, but this is the one that I like. And they used to play it at sunset to tell the bars to close the taps because the troops had to come back to the barracks.
Oh.
He slowed
Oh.
it down, changed a couple of tunes, and then came up with this: "Day is done, gone the sun,
Mhm.
from the hills, from the lakes, from the sky. All is well, safely rest. God is nigh." And he played it. Nobody shot at him. They brought the dead back, and then the Confederates came up and did the same thing. And so that's how it began. And
Okay.
if you ever get to Arlington Cemetery is actually Robert E. Lee's plantation from
Oh, I didn't
before
know
the
that.
war.
I did
And
not
they
know
took
that
it
either.
over early on because much of the fighting in the Civil War happened right up there near
Mhm.
Yep.
Washington.
Mhm.
And so the cemetery or his plantation is within cannon range of the Capitol.
Oh.
And so they didn't want the Confederates to take that. So they really reinforced it. And then as the war went on, they didn't want Robert E. Lee, because he was a big West Point general, to ever come back. And so they made it the National Cemetery. Aren't those interesting stories?
Yeah, really interesting.
That's why I love
stories.
these interviews so much, because you learn so much about how did this happen? Where did taps come from? Robert E. Lee. I mean, I love sitting here just learning.
We have
I like that a lot.
Someone who texted in said their dad was in the honor guard at Fort Snelling on Thursdays for years, had live bugles at his funeral, and met you.
Oh,
So there you go.
You get, look at your fandom
Yeah,
showing up.
You got
now.
fans.
I
Yeah.
love that.
My grandson said, "Grandpa, are you famous?"
I am now.
I said, "Well, to a few people." And then he said, "Did you have black hair when you were an adult?" When you were an adult.
when you were an adult. Now you're beyond an adult
Wow.
somehow. We'll take a quick break. Be
That's
right back. Can you
funny.
stay for a few more minutes?
Oh, I'd love to.
That'd be wonderful. It's great having you here. Let me tell you about my bank. That'd be North American Banking Company. When it comes to banking, it's all about trust, and that's what you get with them. They've been around since 1998, and they always made it clear they're here to give you a better banking experience with a focus on the local community, and you won't be dealing with some AI chatbot. You'll get straight answers and quick decisions, from real people that know you and your situation and are always ready to help. So if you're tired of the big national banks, you want something better, stop by and see my friends, and they are my friend. I don't tell people you're my friend if you're not. My friends at North American Banking Company. Visit nabanco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Many car dealers try to create an extreme sense of urgency. Does anybody really buy it?
We gotta sell 100 cars by Saturday to get the boss off the roof. Or, you'll never see these rebates again. And oh yeah, your trade will never be worth more.
Really? I asked Jim Paul from Valley Buick GMC in Apple Valley and Valley GMC in Hastings his thoughts.
I don't even know what to say. I hope folks are smarter than that.
Has there really ever been a time when it was urgent?
Probably not, but this tariff environment might be a first. Valley has several hundred pre-tariff units on the ground. Who knows what's going to happen with the tariffs, but these are really safe buys. Going forward, Valley's committed to make whatever the situation is as painless as possible, like we've always done.
Where can we find you then?
Get them pre-tariff. Hurry, hurry, hurry. When they're gone, they're gone. And man,
At a Valley store in Apple Valley or Hastings or valleycardealers.com. Certainly not on a roof.
Gary, you're going to love this commercial. You ready? Yeah. South Dakota is one of the most business-friendly states in the country, and there's no better place to settle down and take advantage of those incentives than in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. As the state's largest city with a metro population over 290,000, Sioux Falls has low business costs with a high quality of life. There's no state corporate or personal income tax, no inheritance tax, and no limits to what your business can achieve. You'd agree with all that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. South Dakota ranks among the top 10 states in the United States for tax friendliness. We know that. So you're not there anymore. You have to pay taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do.
Yeah, welcome to
Healthcare,
Minnesota.
doctors, most popular to move to, inbound state for movers. Here's the deal. Listed in 50 best places to live for families, the fastest growing Midwest metro, one of the best places to raise a family. And something I just learned about. Did you know that Sioux Falls has the largest amount of money in it, $3.4 billion, because it's such a tax-friendly state and they take care of your money for you.
Yeah.
$3.4 billion in the bank. It's like, Mike, I never knew that. I found that out. How does South Dakota stack up against other states? They're ranked second in the nation for the lowest cost of doing business, the most business-friendly state, and the best business tax climate. And as South Dakota's biggest city, Sioux Falls is at the center of these benefits. Visit www.siouxfallsdevelopment.com. See, now we talk about how great your birthplace is. I mean, what more could you ask?
There you go.
You should have grown up there. When I was 12 years old, Jim and John Barnett were friends of mine. Their dad was a doctor, and we used to hunt a lot together.
Mm-hmm.
We strapped our 12 gauges across our bikes with a box of
my
shells,
God.
rode downtown,
Rode
downtown under the Cherry Rock Bridge that went across the Big Sioux River and
That is beautiful.
shot pigeons all afternoon, and then put our shotguns back on our bikes. I don't think you can get away with that today.
It's a different world now.
My
That-
dad grew up on the in Jamestown.
Oh.
What river's there? There's a
I
river.
think it's the James River.
Is it the
isn't it?
James River?
Oh,
I
it
don't
is a
know.
James
Might be the
River.
Missouri, but
But they
in North
yeah.
Dakota, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
He had the same kind of stories. They
Yeah.
would just head out on their bikes with their BB guns, or
Oh,
he
yeah.
called them air rifles. I
Yeah,
don't know why
air
he called it an
rifles.
air rifle. but
Yeah.
They used to
Well,
go,
this was a 12 gauge shotgun.
oh, wow.
And how old were you?
12.
12 years old with a 12 gauge shotgun.
Yeah.
We're looking
I got
for
in
that.
trouble though. My dad was mad that I used up all the shotgun shells.
Oh,
No, he
yeah.
couldn't have any fun because of
Shit for
you.
pigeons.
That is the whole problem.
You can eat pigeon. It's tasty.
Can you?
You can.
Oh yeah.
It's called
think it's
squab.
squab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squab. That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. God, I haven't heard that in a long time. Squab. No.
just short of roadkill, I think.
Kinda
Well, all
gross.
right then.
Kinda
I can see
gross.
that. What an honor to have you in studio just a few days away from Memorial Day. It's such a
Yes.
huge holiday. This year, by coincidence, it's our granddaughter's birthday.
Oh.
So she's claiming the whole day for herself. It should be a Memorial Day because it's all about me.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay. But I mean, is it so you got to be wall to wall on Monday? I would think.
Yeah.
Stuff
Yeah.
you have to
It
do.
starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and goes into the right to sunset, and I'll be playing taps at the
12 hours.
at the shoreline. And this summer, if anybody's out on the lake, right at the north end of Spring Park Bay, come and park your boat at sunset. People party out there, and there's music and stuff. And then right at sunset, everything gets quiet, and I play taps, and then poof, they all take off in every
Before the
direction.
mosquitoes
It's really
come out.
quite a spectacle.
Yeah, before the mosquitoes.
But I had people come up to the dock. One woman came up and introduced me to a guy, and she said, my son was killed in 1967.
Mm.
And this guy held my son while he died. We've been looking for him since then. We just found him this week and flew him out, and he wanted to meet you.
Oh, wow.
And I'm crying, and I go over and I said, thank you so much for your service. I said, I've always been embarrassed that I didn't have to go. And he said, you didn't miss nothing.
Yeah.
I suppose not. No question. All these memories coming busting back into my head. I was thinking about my mother's youngest brother, August Dane, was in World War II. Had a rough time, no question about that. Got back, had a big alcohol problem. And the reason I think about this is because when I was 12, I might have been 13 years old, Augie apparently got in with the wrong crowd, and somebody threw him off a building and killed him.
Oh,
So thinking about Memorial Day again, we used to go up, when my mother was still alive, we'd go up to Long Prairie, Minnesota, which is about a 120-mile drive. And you'd see he was 39 years old.
Jeez.
And his biggest dream was someday I can't wait till I'm 40. And he never made it.
Yeah.
So did he see it coming? I mean, why would he
Yeah.
pick 40 as his perfect?
My dad never had any dreams. He came back. He got an unfortunate job. He drove a beer truck for Grainbelt to all the small bars in South Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
But then he got a job at the meatpacking plant. Morels was the biggest meatpacking plant in
Oh,
the country.
yep.
And that was like getting a PhD for him. He had a regular job,
Right.
so he could buy regular liquor. And but I always thought, how do you conduct your life when you just save the world?
Right.
The most important thing is behind you.
Yeah,
And that
yep.
really spurred me on in my life. I mean, I didn't have a big education. I started out as a salesman selling drafting supplies and blueprinting. And I started a company. We rented 300 square feet of office space from a plumber who was getting divorced and wanted to rent his office out. And I said, I can't sign a lease because I don't know if this is going to work. And he said, just don't show up if you don't pay. And so we started that business, and it's called Engineering Repro Systems in 1980, September 20th, 1980. By 1999, we were doing $1 million a month in sales and had the best technology, online plan rooms, so people could. It was $1.2 million worth of
Wow.
document management cost to keep everybody with the latest and greatest drawings all the way through the bidding process and the building of the Twin Stadium. It was a big business, and then we joined up with these guys in California called American Reprographics Company and bought like 214 companies across the country.
Wow.
And I was a senior VP, helped with acquisitions, and I had the presidents of all the divisions that we bought in most of the Midwest reporting to me. I had a fantastic career and enjoyed all of the splendid wonderfulness of freedom and liberty and the capitalist system that we have. And so this is just a tiny little thing to do. But
It's a wonderful thing to
it
do.
gives you adrenaline.
It is.
Really does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, just having you in has really made the Memorial Day weekend big for me. And just talking about all these things because they're in your head. And then Memorial Day, it's like Christmas time, all those wonderful Christmas memories. Well, Memorial Day memories are not the greatest, but they're all still in there.
But to me, one of the great sins is to be ungrateful. And
I agree.
I just, every day of misery, the loneliness of being all on your own, just a kid out in the field. I have a grandson who Matt Oko is his name. He just joined the Army. He goes in August to Fort Benning. And he's talked about being in the military since he was a little kid. And,
really?
Yeah. And
suppose, yeah.
he went down to Ole Miss to go to school. And after a year and a half, he just said, you know what? I need more discipline in my life. And I've always wanted to do this. And so we're really proud of him. I have a niece from Sioux Falls who, when she graduated from high school, announced to her parents that she was going to be a Marine.
Oh,
And I thought, how are they going to take that? And they just embraced it. She's now an MP in the Marines. I don't know. I think she's in Virginia or somewhere now, but she was a leader sort of a person when she was a child. She's just Mackenzie's
you
her
mean
name.
like Fawn?
Mackenzie Peterson.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see Fawn in the military. She's
She's
too,
a leader.
she's
No,
too
I cannot.
free
Lead everything.
spirity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, she's also doesn't exactly have the physique for the military.
Yeah,
I don't
she's
think.
teensy.
That's so funny, Gary. You thinking back to we're about the same age, a couple of years younger than you, but pretty much the same age. But when we were kids, if you watch TV, you were watching Combat, you were watching
Rat Patrol.
Rat Patrol. There were all these Army, Marine Corps, Navy, all these. Well, I can't really count Navy because
Well, but even things that aren't themed after the military, like watch any cartoon made between the years of 1930 and probably 1980.
Mhm.
It's going to have a military theme in it.
it is.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
true.
They're either going to be
It's
like
true.
doing a military parade or like miming firing a machine gun or something. You'll hear the Jericho trumpets. It's like everything was
Yeah.
war themed for like 100 years.
It was
It's
for
insane.
a long time.
Yeah.
By the way, I wasn't making fun of the Navy. I was thinking about McHale's Navy, which
Yes.
I loved.
That was
anyway.
great.
It was
Hogan's
great.
Heroes.
Hogan's
I
Heroes.
remember
Man, I
watching
can think about
Hogan's
all that.
Heroes.
Yeah. Well, remember Baba Black Sheep?
Oh yeah.
Well, Tom Day, who started Bugles Across America, was friends with Pappy Boyington. And he
Really?
played taps at Pappy Boyington's funeral. When Pappy was dying, he sent him a message and said, you better get your horn, Tommy, because I'm running out of runway here.
Oh,
So
God.
I'm a watercolor artist. So I painted a picture of Tom playing taps in front of Pappy's grave.
God.
And I write poems. I've always written poems all my life. And so I wrote a poem. And if you got a second, I'll recite it for you.
Absolutely.
And I put the poem on the painting, and it says, they won't tell you stories of battlefield glories, show medals they stashed in a drawer. Don't ask them what happened. Did you kill anybody? What was it like being in war? Don't make him recall his buddy named Paul, who was lost on the 5th of September. Don't make him re-see unspeakable things. Don't relight that smoldering ember. On his very last day, when the 3 volleys play and the grateful flag lays in our laps, goodbye, we will say, shed a tear and we'll pray midst the soft saddened echo of taps. And I'll be doing that at a ceremony on Memorial Morning at Groveland Cemetery.
That's
They've asked
beautiful.
me to say a few words and then play taps.
Yeah, we have a bunch of people in the chat talking about, like, we have a lot of people whose dads and grandpas were veterans, and
Mhm.
the consensus seems to be that they don't talk about it.
My
Yeah.
dad never talked about it until he got into his late 80s. Then he would talk about it like he said, hey, I remember one time he said, it wasn't all bad in the war. We had a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
And I all of a
You can
sudden
be
heard
nostalgic about anything.
I heard all of these stories that I had never heard before. Like when he was shot and he was sent to Nancy, France to recover. He was in there for a long time.
Mhm.
And when he was discharged, he didn't want to come back to the States. He wanted to get it. I think he applied for a job at Normandy Beach Cemetery
Mhm.
there,
Huh.
and he didn't get it. So that's why he had to come home, because he didn't get a job. I was like, you wanted to stay in Europe after all of that? Wouldn't you just be dying to get home? He's like,
You would think.
I really liked Europe. I liked the food. It was very interesting, the cultures, because he started off in Africa, in Somalia, and kind of marched his way up there. He
Mhm.
joined when he was like 16.
Yeah.
15 and a half.
Not
Yep.
uncommon.
Yeah.
No, he when he died, he still had a little bit of ammo in some part of his body, didn't he?
Oh, he had shrapnel all over his
Shrapnel, yeah,
body.
it's there
He
forever.
couldn't have had,
For a lot of
had an MRI because he had shrapnel all over the place.
This story is
It's
interesting.
amazing he lived.
My my wife's father was hit in Holland with a mortar in the back of his legs,
Mhm.
and he couldn't walk, and it was winter, so they just gave him his M16 and left him in the ditch because they had to keep moving.
Oh,
Right.
And he said, if the Germans came, I was a POW. If the Americans came, I'd get picked up. And they flew him back to England, and he got patched up, but he had shrapnel in the back of his legs all
Yep.
his life. He was the first salesman for Melrose Manufacturing who made the Bobcat.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
really?
He had an old International panel truck with, his name was John Wickline. He had an old International panel truck, and they'd put one on the back of that, and he'd pull into a farmhouse. Because back then, every farmer in North Dakota had cows, pigs, sheep, and
Yeah.
corn. And they spent their time cleaning out the stalls with all the manure. He'd pull that thing in. It was just narrower than a stall, clean out the stall for the guy, get a check, and leave. And he convinced them, let's start implement dealers. And that's now a $1 billion business.
Right.
Yeah.
And he would take his implement dealer customers hunting and fishing up in Canada. He had an airplane. He'd fly them up to Kenora. And they were either in Kenora or Regina. And he was at a hotel, and he was paying the bill for all of his guys in the morning when they were leaving. And he said to the receptionist, "You have an interesting accent. Where are you from?" And she said, "I'm from Holland." And he said, "Oh, where?" And she said, "Oh, a little town. You would have never heard of it." And he said, "What is it?" And he said, "I was there during the war." And she said, "The town." And he said, "I got blown up just outside that town."
Oh God.
She said, "Oh my God." And she started crying. He said, "I know where that is." And so they had a nice chat, and he's walking away. And she says, Mr. Wickline, your pants." Turn around, there's blood in the back of his calf, and a piece of shrapnel had come out.
Oh.
Just then. Does that make the hair stand up in the back
That
of your
is
neck?
God.
just, yeah. Wow.
Oh, by the way,
I
I
was
made a
trying to
mistake.
return home.
Yeah.
I've been getting messages on my watch. Tom, you made a huge mistake. Sioux Falls ranks as the first in the nation for total bank assets with $3.5 trillion.
Yeah. I think you said
Oh.
billion.
I said billion. No, it's trillion.
With $36.
They can pay off the national debt.
Yeah, they could.
Not quite.
$4.6 trillion. Oh
Wow.
my God.
Maybe the Fed will mint $130 trillion coin and
Yeah,
just pay it
I
all
mean-
off.
Let's not do that. We'll have
That'll
more
work.
inflation.
We'll take a break, come back, and wrap things up. This has been such a. Now you're gonna have to come back every Memorial weekend.
I'd love to.
Oh, God, it's great having you in studio.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. It's time for Wellshire Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Facilities. Wellshire Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Facilities are a place where your loved one will live with pride and dignity. If you care deeply about someone in your life, Wellshire is the place I highly recommend. Wellshire is a memory care focused facility that has a full nursing team, always staffed within the building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have never used or relied on any staffing agencies. Wellshire Medina now accepting elderly waivers after 12 months of private pay. I know them personally. That is a fact. The great family, Wellshire. That's all I have to say. Here's the deal. I know them personally, and they are a family-owned local company, conveniently located right in Medina and Bloomington. They are the best staffed memory care facility in the state. Wellshire has a robust community with activities 7 days a week. If your loved one is in need of memory care facility, please get in touch with my friends at Wellshire, set up a tour, or learn more at wellshiremn.com. That's WEALSHIREMN.com. Does thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable? Sometimes the anxiety for wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? My guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, can sit down with you and get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk. Never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608. Set up your free 48-minute no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608. Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC Security Investment Advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments must involve risk. You know that. All comments and opinions of Josh Arnold do not constitute investment advice. I am a paid endorser. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, this is, I noticed today, within about the next 6 or 7 days, we're going to go over 10,000 comments about this Jack's contest.
Really?
10,000. We're closing in. I think it's like 7,000 already,
Wow.
but it's picking up like
That's
a
great.
grand a day. Let's talk about Jack's. Family owned since 1933, an original Minneapolis steakhouse, a place to celebrate and create memories for over 90 years. Just minutes from Target Field for a pre or post game meal. Perfect prime rib, serving steaks, chops, fresh seafood. You can even net your own. You ever been to Jack's?
Yeah, I've had the trout out of the stream.
Out of the stream. So there you go.
Did
Gary.
you net
See,
it yourself?
I knew you were a good guy to bring in. There's no question about it. We knew that was a good idea. You can, what Gary just said. You can even net your own trout from Jack's garden stream and have it prepared for you minutes later. You can enjoy happy hour in a bar or award-winning patio on Wednesday through Sunday. Private party rooms from $25 to $275. I got to tell you a story about Sid Hartman after I finish this.
Okay.
Party rooms from $25 to $275, perfect for weddings, groom's dinners, business dinners, or all celebrations. Weekend brunch Saturday and Sunday. Jack's the godfather of Northeast. Every time I read that, because Billy is a really, really good friend of mine, Billy Kozlak over at Jack's. I've known him forever, and they're a sponsor, and it's just kicking ass. Everybody loves it. They're giving the $100 giveaways, and everybody's going, I love Jack's. I want to win the $100. When's that?
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
why not head over to x.com, look up Tom Bernard OG, look at the pinned comment on that, and you are entered to win a $100 gift card from Jack's
And
Cafe.
that'll be every week until further notice.
Thursday evening is when we do the drawing, and then Friday we announce it. So, yep.
I like it. So I do probably tell this story about 3 times a month, but I love it. I loved Sid Hartman. He was an odd character. Well, Chad, his son, and I are good friends too. But when Sid was still alive, I used to spend a lot of time with him on sports events, things like that. We were both North Side kids. He and I both grew up on Plymouth Avenue. He was a few years ahead of me, but one of those deals. So Sid calls me and she goes, Bernard, I'm going to be late. Just hold me a chair. I'll be there in about 10 minutes. So he comes in 10 minutes. He's rushing in, and they're in the middle of some speech and whatever. Sits down, grabs a spoon, starts eating his soup. And after a couple of minutes, he looks at me and goes, Bernard, this soup is terrible. I said, that's because it's salad dressing. Now, that was a Sid thing to do. I'm just telling you.
Or going down the wrong way on a one-way street in Dinkytown.
That was your first experience with Sid.
Mhm.
Everybody has Sid.
Oh, yeah.
I was the president of the Minneapolis Rotary Club in 2010 and 11, and we had Sid come and speak. And so I got to talk to him a bit and arrange that. And the next day, I'm downtown with a couple of our sales guys. We're going to a meeting, and we're walking through the Crystal Court, and Sid Hartman's walking by, and he comes by and he says, hey, Gary, how are you? I said, great, Sid, nice to meet you. And they look at me like, what the hell?
Sydney. One of the great things about Sydney, we'll close with this because it's a great, we're talking about memories today, and people have passed and all the rest of it, and Sid died a few years ago. But Sid and I were from the same neighborhood. Like I said, he was about 50 years older than me, but it all worked out in the end. But the great stories that Sid would tell about his mother, and as a nice Jewish boy in North Minneapolis, his father tended to hit the bars way too often, which for a Jew at that time was, well, it's still not looked, it's kind of frowned upon is the best way to put it, right? Mm-hmm. And Sidney would tell me stories as a teenager, having to go find his father and bring him home, and because his mother would say, go find your dad. And what Sidney went through, we're sitting over, he had a cabin over on the river, over on the Wisconsin border. And there's what's the ice cream shack again, right by the, there's a big ski, what is the name of that ski area? No, the ski area.
Afton Alps.
Afton Alps, I think it is Afton Alps. Sid and I are eating ice cream at that little, it was kind of a bar area, I guess. It kind of looked like it that anyway. And Sid was talking to me, and then he kind of turned away. So I was sitting over here, and he kind of turned away and took a couple of licks off his ice cream cone, and he turned around and he was crying. And he said, Tom, I wish my mama had never died. I went, okay, Sid. So good story to tell on Memorial Weekend is all I have to say. Yeah. He was a wonderful man, and I do miss you, Sydney. I will tell you that. I miss the hell out of it. He was nuts. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but what a pillar of a guy.
There's no question.
What a reputation.
Yeah.
No doubt.
My good friends. Everybody was
his good
Bobby
friend.
Knight.
He worked hard.
And Chad is just a wonderful guy too, no question. He used to go over and meet Sid at the Lincoln Dell, and once in a while Chad or his daughter would show up. And I miss the Lincoln Dell too. That's another thing that's dead.
Yeah, you've been pining for the Lincoln Dell lately.
Yes, he has.
I have, it's true. Well, the Celebrity Deli is pretty good, but
Yeah, you do like a nice matzo ball soup.
There are places in Minneapolis where everybody went to at least once, and the Lincoln Dell was one.
Oh, for sure.
No question.
Cooper Theater.
Used to be a food desert. Lincoln Dell was a beacon.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you?
They can They can email me at Gary MERS. My old company was Engineering Repro Systems. So that's GaryMERS@gmail.com. They can go to our website, buglescrossamerica.org. There is a link to our site if people wanted to donate some money. We keep our website up to date, but we're pretty much self-funded. Most of the donations come from those of us who are members.
Right.
And, but it isn't an expensive thing to do if you're not trying to, pump things into a big organization. We've got 3 national directors that keep in touch with the state directors. I'm the state director for North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, actually, because we don't have state directors. But both North Dakota and South Dakota's veteran service organizations are very active, and they mostly have live buglers. And so the demand isn't as great there, although there is some. And so I just did my brother-in-law's funeral. He was in the Army in Sioux Falls a week ago. And I was trying to find a way to get some media there to try and drum up some volunteer buglers out of that area. And it's just something that keeps going, keeps me going.
That's a good thing. And I never thought this would happen, but I can say it today. Charlie from Albuquerque actually he contributed to a show.
Wow.
He didn't just call in and bother us. He made a great show, Charlie. I know you're listening, Charlie.
He's a good guy. I have
Charlie's a great
an old mahogany boat, and he sent me some pajama pants with mahogany boats on it. That was a great
Sounds
gift.
like Charlie.
Yeah.
No question. Gary, we got to have you back more often. It's
Love
great
to.
having you.
Thank you.
you
Pleasure
so
to
much.
meet you. I've been a fan for decades.
See, now may as well play taps. They're going to make me cry.
Me too.
You have your.
He does. He
does,
brought it.
Oh God, let's close with that. That's a
right.
brilliant move. Oh, I love it. Catherine's falling apart. This is a tough
I'm
deal.
gonna have to pinch myself so I don't cry.
We're gonna hit the taps, and then we're gonna hit the outro right afterwards.
How are we?
Taps and
How's that's gonna work with the mics and stuff?
Let's find out.
Okay,
Look at that.
No one's ever played a bugle in the studio before, so
No.
we'll find out.
we'll see what our acoustics are. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. That'll do it. Talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Got a picture in my noggin, reminds me of this one was before.